ago. She came to Vilnius to give a presentation at Silicon Valley Comes to the Baltics. So she actually has been to Vilnius and she knows Lithuanians. And actually after this meeting in Vilnius, maybe 3 or 4 years later, we met back in California. So it's a long story. And at that time when we met, she lived in Israel.
Yeah.
So it's just really kind of interesting how everything goes. And now she lives 8 minutes from me in car. So okay. And yeah, Shira, if you're ready, it's all yours.
Okay, awesome. I will share the screen. And can you see looks like you're seeing the right screen. Everybody got it? And does it look good to you?
It's super wide, but we can see it. It's your whole monitor.
I know. Okay, hold on 2 seconds. I'm going to switch, okay, hold on a second. Let me see if I can get it to work like this, because I tried it before. And the problem is, now it's working. All right. Share, and now I have to go back to, is that better?
Way better. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And
I have 2 monitors. I have a gaming monitor, which I do my normal work on. I don't use it for gaming. And then, of course, the laptop, which is connected over. So I had it originally the other way around. Anyway, let's get started. There's going to be 2 parts to this. First, I'm going to go rather quickly through behavior engineering. It's the idea that, or it's the concept of, how do you want someone to feel? What is the feeling that they have that triggers them to an action? And this is used in business in several different ways. Insurance uses it to put fear in you so that you are more likely to buy, because what they want you to do is buy before a compelling event. A compelling event would be, of course, some type of tragedy. And if you buy after that, then you're not covered, but also they don't make the money from the time when nothing is going on. So there's times where people tend to buy more compelling events. And then there's times when they have budget and they have to buy something in business, right? You don't want to lose your budget. You have to spend your budget in order to keep your budget. So sometimes you simply have to buy because you have to buy. And this is best for those times, as a compelling event is simply a compelling event, and that's not something that can be planned or engineered. So, all right, now now it's not moving forward. Let's go to here. There we go. So the things to consider when you're designing your marketing program is what feeling compels your buyer. And then to be able to bring that feeling up, what hormones represent that feeling, and then how do you ask them in order to trigger an action? So emotions and hormones rule over far more than we even realize. Do you have a favorite food or a favorite coffee? Something that you know when you go to the store, you're going to buy that and nothing else. Like you're not going to consider anything else in the area. With my son, it is ketchup, or at least it used to be. I don't think it is so much anymore. But when he was child, it was ketchup. It was ketchup, and it had to be Heinz. And so if I went to the store, I knew I was going to be buying Heinz ketchup. Now, if I was in some area of Europe that didn't have Heinz ketchup, my brain had to do a lot of computing to figure out which ketchup I should get that I think will be the closest to Heinz ketchup. What you're looking for is the first choice brand effect, where your brain does no computing. You see it, you grab it, you buy it. That's handled through brand and familiarity. and repetition. So these are things that you need to consider when you're doing your marketing programs. That's why multi-touch is important. That's why multi-channel is important. But all of it comes from chemicals in our body, our hormones: endorphins, serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine, neuroepinephrine, and cortisol. Now, have you guys ever had like a really bad day where you've been super stressed and then you've had a really important meeting later that day?
Of course.
I can't. Okay, thank you. I can't actually see most of you, so I appreciate the call out. When you've had a really bad day and you have a really important meeting later and you're stressed, your body's flooded with cortisol. And the only thing that cuts off cortisol is endorphins. There are only two ways to bring endorphins into your body, and that's through laughter and exercise. So here's a brain hack for you. If you've had a really bad day, you've got a super important meeting, or even if you've just had a stressful call and an important meeting, or something is going on in your life that gives you stress and you've raised in the cortisol, raise your arms for 2 minutes. Raise your arms, set the timer, and if you're in super good shape, make it 3 minutes. And this is an isotonic exercise, and you'll be able to, after a few minutes, bring your arms down. Once you feel the pain, you have to feel the pain. So you raise your arms, and after a few minutes, when you lower them, that pain will turn into endorphins. And those endorphins will cut off your cortisol and will give you the runner's high, or how you feel after laughter. It will make you feel like a winner, so that when you go into anything that you're going into, you'll have a significantly more successful interaction. Okay. The quiet on the other side is driving me crazy. Somebody's got to talk. I need interaction here, folks. So please unmute yourselves and ask questions while I'm going through if you have them. Don't feel
Sure,
like,
will
okay, thank you. All right. Serotonin is all about leadership, pride, status. It's, I have an Apple computer and an Apple Watch and an Apple phone and an iPad. It is brand, okay? It is social proof. It is corporate culture. It is trust and security and concept and innovation and confidence, all of this. And this is what your body has when you buy that thing that you really wanted for a really long time, or when you've been made to feel important, okay? When you reach on a leaderboard, when you've been recognized for your status, all of this triggers serotonin. So that would be when you let a customer know that they are a platinum customer, right? They have a higher level of status. It's doing things that help people just feel really good. Or, on the other hand of it, you could see if I go this much more, I get to the next level. So it also can trigger someone to push themselves to get to that next level. Now, while you can't always get it where you can trigger what you're after, you can always make someone feel special, right? You can always say that I really appreciate you. You can send a handwritten note, all of these things. These also trigger positive chemicals or positive hormones, which get attributed to you. And these are things to consider while you're going through. Oxytocin is the mommy hormone. It is love and friendship. It's shaking hands in a meeting. It's giving time and energy to help with something for free. If there's money exchanged, it does not trigger oxytocin. But when you're doing something that does something better for humanity. So let's think about your whole office goes. If you're having a stressful time in the company, one good way to handle that is to go volunteer to do something good for somebody else with the whole group. Everyone at the end of it feels good because it feels good to give. And to give to something that brings you meaning, right? Something that you feel is important. So painting a school or something that helps others in some way, helping at a soup kitchen or something like this, or a dog shelter. So things that you could do that can, when you give, you feel good about because you're giving your time for free and it's something that's meaningful to you, that will trigger oxytocin. It needs to be meaningful and it needs to be a real connection. So this is an in-person chemical. It doesn't work through, it doesn't work in a digital form. Dopamine, on the other hand.
It doesn't work through this meeting as well, would you say?
No. No, it doesn't work through Zoom. But on the other, well, I'm getting it because I'm donating my time. So I get to feel good because I'm helping a group of people do better. But the rest of you, no, because volunteering, it's like the person who's giving. Anyway, so, but dopamine, on the other hand, dopamine is everything digital. Dopamine is highly addictive. Nobody's on their camera, so, or at least, well, one person is on their camera. Thank you for that. But I can't see how many of you actually, thumbs up if you have your phone next to you when you wake up in the morning. I'm seeing a lot of thumbs. Okay, everyone, I'll take the thumbs. Everyone who just did a thumbs up, one, you just got a dopamine hit for that thumbs up. And two, you are hooked to your phone. And dopamine is the reason why. Every like you get, every heart, every action, every email from an actual person rather than spam, everything that is unexpected or any type of variable unexpected reward triggers dopamine. Neuroepinephrine is the fear of missing out. It is why we are alert and paying attention. It is connected to our fight or flight response. So this is when there's a clothing site and they only give you 15 minutes to make the purchase and other people are interested, that triggers neuroepinephrine. So how do you trigger this in the sales process? You trigger it by saying, we have this much amount of time to get this thing done. After this time, we have to start negotiations again. That would trigger neuroepinephrine. You want to follow that with something that makes them feel good. Otherwise, they will attribute the stressful feeling to you. So you follow that with something like, I'm absolutely positive we'll be able to do it in the amount of time, and it'll be an absolute blast. Cortisol is the stress hormone. It is anything negative, any negative type of post, reading the news lately, that triggers a ton of cortisol. It impairs cognitive performance. People do not think clearly, react clearly, or make good decisions when they're flooded with cortisol. Makes you paranoid, and it comes out in high stress environments. Layoffs does this, and it inhibits your ability to feel oxytocin. So when you're flooded with cortisol, you literally are kept from feeling good. Now, remember what I said in the very beginning of the talk, that endorphins cuts off cortisol? Raise your arms. Go take a quick walk. I go to the rower. I have a rowing machine that I absolutely love, and I will go do 10 minutes on the rower if that's all I have. And that will cut off cortisol. You want to do something that triggers endorphins. Exercise is a great way to do that. You can't always guarantee you're going to be able to make somebody laugh, but exercise you could always do. So exercise is a great way to cut off cortisol. It helps us all think clearer. It helps us think better, and it helps us react better in stressful situations. Now, we understand the hormones and essentially what they're connected to. How do we get the reaction we want so that someone will buy? That's all in how we ask. Now, if you were all on camera and on sound, I would ask you, how could this be better? And since you're not on, anybody want to go off mute and tell me?
3 options instead of 4?
Close. I would actually go the other way. I would have a 5th, and I would make unlimited first, then enterprise. You want to anchor high. And so I would make one that's almost kind of ridiculous, make it 350 and make that one first, then the 250, then the 125, then the 65, and then the 25. Why? When you anchor high, people are more likely to go to one of the other options and think it's less expensive, so they're more likely to buy. When you start at 25, 250 looks expensive. If you start at 350, 250 will look less. So where you anchor it, if you could get a large number on there and that's the first thing they see, and then they see the other numbers, they're going to see all the other numbers as being less expensive. So the next one, and yes, I know I need to update this, the image for this slide. The next one is any type of political. This is how they handle it, okay? So they come to your door, and this happened in the election, which is why I keep Hillary here, because this is just the perfect example back in the day. They come to your door and they ask you, do you agree with this, this, and this? And if you happen to agree with all those things and you say yes, they say, oh, great, so does our candidate. Would you be willing to hang a small sign in your front window? And I would walk my dog every day and I would see this tiny sign in this person's front window. And this is an actual photo that I took, which is the reason why I keep this slide up, because it's personal. So it starts with this little Hillary banner in their window. And then a couple weeks later, there's like 2, one on top of each other. Then there's a tiny sign in the lawn. Then there's a big sign in the lawn. And then there's multiple signs in the lawn. This person really wanted to make sure that you understood that they wanted Hillary for president. But it all starts with that first small ask. You ask something really tiny. And the second you ask the first time, you are primed, which is another one that we're going to get to in a minute. But you are primed. And all of these different things are heuristics that are connected to chemicals. So when you say, yes, you agree with them, that'd be dopamine. Then you put the sign up, that's serotonin, because you feel this attributes to your status. And that's your personal identity. As it grows, so do the chemicals that get attributed with this. And it's all positive chemicals inside of you. So what are you doing with your customers and your marketing to trigger positive chemicals so they attribute the feeling of positivity with your brand and with you? Another way to do this, instead of a tiny ask to slowly asking bigger asks, is a big ask and then a small ask. Think about your kids. They come to you and they ask for something really big that they know you're going to say no to. Then they come to you and they ask for something small. You already feel bad about saying no the first time, so you're more likely to say yes. Works. It works a charm. You could also do that in terms of negotiations. You ask for more than you know that they're going to say yes to, and then you walk it back a little bit until they look more comfortable and you leave it there. But because you anchored high, it was a lot easier to take it down and get what you were actually looking for. Whereas if you started with what you were looking for, you would very likely get less. Have any of you ever heard of Hare Krishnas?
Yes.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know, Hare Krishnas are, I don't even know how to, I guess they're a cult, but I'm not sure. Seemingly harmless one, I'm not sure. But anyway, they dress around in togas. And in the 70s, they used to dress around in togas, go to airports and carry flowers. And they would carry these flowers and they would go up to people and people would literally run away from them. You could YouTube this and watch the videos of people running away from Hare Krishnas, because the second that Hare Krishna gave you the flower, you knew you were going to take out your wallet and give them money, because that's reciprocity. And people would run away from them because they didn't want to give the Hare Krishna any money. And then they would take the flower, they would throw it away, and the Hare Krishnas would go to the trash, grab the flowers, and go back and do it all again. This is how they raise their money. Then they were banned from the airports. Reciprocity is when you're giving something and, you just, you give them something without necessarily expecting anything in return. How this works in marketing is, when you have the chance to promote someone else, so you start a blog where you do interviews, you start a podcast where you do interviews, when you mention someone else in your social feed and you work them up and tell people how awesome they are and promote them, they will promote you, and you can scale that. So that is how reciprocity gets transferred into a marketing framework. And it's scalable, but it's also quite powerful. Priming. Back in the day, it's an old example, but I love this example so much. This website had an icon. The icon that you could see there, it is a dog icon. It opened up to a picture of the office dogs. You got a hit of dopamine when you when you clicked on it, because you're clicking on something you don't know. Then you see the picture of the office dogs and you get endorphins. Those two positive hormones are now attributed to your brand. You made somebody laugh, that makes them more likely to click and follow you on the other platforms. This company, Takipi, found that it raised their follower count by 20%. Mere exposure. Repeating. Say what you're going to say it again, and then say it again. The more you say something, the more likely it is to actually stick in somebody's head. You've got the chemicals in your body, you've got the different ways of asking, that ends up triggering somebody's actions. That's all that this is all about. So repeating makes it more likely to actually get into your head. You could do it in a way that triggers neuroepinephrine and then dopamine. So that would be something stressful and then something positive, or a compliment and then something funny with laughter. All of that is quite a ride, but it ends up being attributed to your brand. So a way to do that would be, again, something like limited time offer. Throw it in, you've got it, it's ready for you, you've won, fantastic. And then something funny. When I moved to Silicon Valley, there was a lot of discussion about Apple versus Android. Most people I know love design and have Apples. I know a lot of coders and a lot of engineers who have Androids, because they will not have a closed system. They want an open source system. I want design. I want the best design, and I want the smoothest experience. And that is given through the Apple system. So it is very much an us versus them. This is your identity. Are you a design person? Are you an open source person? Where do you lie in this? Analysis paralysis. This is where we're giving too many options. Way too many. If you give way too many options to somebody and somebody has to sit there and figure it out and not sure what they're going to do, that stresses them out and induces cortisol. You don't necessarily want that attributed to your brand. Simplify it. Give them only a few choices. You don't want more. People generally don't want to be thinking too hard when they're making a decision. And the easier you make it for them, the easier it will be for them to buy. And all of this goes down to framing. As we all know, there's a huge difference between framing something as you've got a 10% failure rate. I don't know how I feel about that, versus you've got a 90% success rate. That is amazing. Just very different feelings. And it changes how you think and how you react. Social proof. When you know that a company is working with someone that you respect, you're more likely to work with that company. Example, we have Siemens as a client. We're more likely to get another enterprise because they see that we're working with Siemens. If we had all startups in our client base, then we would get more startups. It would be harder to get an enterprise because an enterprise would assume that we don't know how to work with an enterprise. It's social proof without actually being proof. It's the hint that you are what you say you are. An example of this, I was at a conference and a woman was promoting her book. And as she's promoting her book, she shows a picture of her with oh gosh, somebody who was famous actor. And I looked at the slide and I'm like, why is this here? He's not promoting her book. He doesn't have her book in her hands. It's just her with him. It's just social proof. And people in that room attributed her with how they feel about him. And so they were more likely to buy her book and buy her workshop simply because of that slide, which was completely irrelevant to absolutely everything else going on. Inclusion, an Easter egg. So an Easter egg is when you hide something that only those who know. Okay. How many of you recognize Nimbus 2000? Give me a thumbs up if you recognize the Nimbus 2000.
Is that from Harry Potter? No.
It is. Yep, that's exactly it. So this is from Mixpanel, and it's in their how-to guide, right? And so here they have how-to, and you see Nimbus 2000. You see this, you recognize it's from Harry Potter. You just got to hit a dopamine. Not just a hit a dopamine, but you also probably got to hit a serotonin because you feel like you're part of the group. Inclusion is definitely serotonin, and you now attributed that to the brand. You also know that this brand represents you. You got the joke. Whereas if you don't get it, you don't get the hit of dopamine or serotonin, but you can still learn how to use Mixpanel. It's not absolutely required to get it to be able to do it. Does that make sense? It's when you know that the group that you're selling to will get a certain joke and others won't. And they know not everybody's going to get it. So they feel like they're included. Now we're going to talk about different action triggers. And that's taking the how you ask and taking it at the hormones and how you ask and taking it home. All right. This is a part of gamification.
Shira, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
There was one pretty good question I thought that asked, for foot in the door, how could you make this work in the digital space? It was very clear how to make it work in the physical, but.
So actually, you get this all the time. Somebody asks for something really tiny. Like we're doing this actually right now with a client. It's a startup, and they are looking for partners for their product, right? They're just starting out. They're a Silicon Valley $4 million seed stage, And everywhere else in the world, that's not seed. But in Silicon Valley, it is. So they're seed stage, they're an AI platform. And we are writing to people. We're writing to heads of dev teams. We're writing to product managers. Sorry, we're writing product managers. And we're saying, we're looking for product feedback. Could we get you on a call just for product feedback? Just product feedback, nothing else, right? We're not asking for a sale. We're just asking for product feedback. We book the call, and in the call, we give the demo. And if they're impressed, we ask if they'd like to be a design partner. That's how you do it. That's the small ask that's the foot in the door. What are you asking for that's so tiny that they're very likely to say yes to it? And it's not selling. The sales will come later. You have to start the relationship first. So something like that, something tiny, that's not a heavy lift on their side. They get to show off their expertise in this case. So that people love doing that. They're helping a small startup. People like doing that, especially in this industry. So all of these things attributed to the amount of yeses that we've gotten so far. Does that explain it? Cool.
Yeah, it does. Shira, I have a question. This is Jay, by the way. So in the same context, you explained it can be other way around, like big ask versus coming down to the small ask. Yes. So in the same context, can you give an example or use case, like how it would work?
Oh, every negotiation.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, every single financial negotiation, you are very likely to be asking. Procurement has to show that they negotiate on price if you're working with an enterprise. Okay, so whatever you're telling them the price is in the beginning better be higher than what you're actually hoping to get. If you tell them exactly the price that it is and don't negotiate on it, they are not going to be judged as well on their jobs, and you're going to hurt them. So you have to go higher, and then they have to negotiate and bring it down. And this makes them feel good, so they get better reviews from their bosses. Oh, you were able to bring them down this much? That's fantastic. That is the best example, okay? Where you ask for more than you actually intend to get. Another example would be when you're negotiating and you want something. Okay, I'm going to be buying this service. Can I get all of this for this much? And they're going to go, no, but you could get this. It's just setting the anchor higher so that you could get closer to what you're actually looking for.
Right. So this big ask versus small ask, these two applied in two different scenarios. So small ask is more for opening the door, while the big ask coming down to the small is more at the final stage when the negotiation is happening.
More of a negotiation. Yes, exactly.
Right. Okay.
One is more at the top of the funnel and one is in the middle of the bow tie.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Do you know the bow tie funnel?
I heard about that, but not much sure about that, how that works in reality.
Okay. Then I will get to that. I will get to that. Hold on a second. Let me see where it is here. Do I have it? I do not. I don't actually have it in this deck. So I will simply explain it now. The bow tie funnel takes you through, okay, you've got awareness. Then you go through and you've got where somebody's already starting to be engaged. Then they start really looking at all of your products and maybe they've had a meeting or two. Then they start to go into the actual sales cycle, and then they go to opportunity, they go to negotiation, you've got closed win. That's the close, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's say you've got a SaaS product that you're starting at a lower start because you're only going to one division or you're doing a proof of concept or whatever. Well, then you have to take it and you have to expand it, right? So you've got where you're onboarding them in the very beginning. Then you have to make sure they've got some type of success. Then you ask them to refer you to different divisions. Then you just keep growing it out until you're throughout the entire company. And you have to make sure that you keep this So this turns into its own cycle where you work with them to make sure that they're satisfied. You do a lot of internal marketing. You do special events, all of this, depending on how large the account is. And that turns into its own cycle so that you can keep the money that you're making from the account. Does that make
sense? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that's the bow tie funnel. And that is most business sales. Back to the gamification slide. So reward, status, achievement, self-expression, competition, and altruism. A status culture is one that's very based on, you need to have a really, like your clothes, your watch, your car. It's what you have and how you show it off. Whereas an achievement culture is what you've done. The different things, the two sides to this, even though they're triggered very similarly, you can't market to them the same way. An achievement culture wants to know what you've done. What are you doing? How much are you doing? How are you going to get it to be more? And you always have to be achieving in an achievement culture. You never get to rest. In a status culture, you could simply have your status and enjoy yourself. There is the enjoyment in an achievement culture comes from the process of achieving. And it's two very different mindsets. An example of this, well, all right, we are startups. So an example of this is the difference between the startup eco-culture in Israel versus the startup culture in Germany. In Germany, if you've raised money and closed your startup, the odds are you're never going to be able to raise again. Okay. If you did not have an exit, you're done. You're going to go work for somebody else. In Israel, they're going to ask you, what did you get? Did you launch a product? Did you raise money? How far did you get? Did you learn from it? What'd you learn? Okay, go do it again. Don't make the same mistakes. Because it's what do you achieve and how much did you learn? You're allowed to fail, okay, in an achievement culture because you only achieve through failure. You only learn through failure. That's life. Whereas a status culture, failure means death. On the other side of it, if you have an exit and you never have to work again, in Germany, you could say, you know what, I'm going to enjoy my life. And everybody else is like, yeah, that's cool. In Israel, if you're going to say, I'm just going to relax and enjoy my life, they're like, what? You're not going to do, you're going to go travel a bit, you're going to relax, and then you're going to do it again. Of course, you're going to do it again. You have to achieve. You have to constantly be achieving. There is no relaxing, maybe for a little while, but not for a long while. And there's certainly not for the rest of your life. So achieving is constantly there, and it's in the mindset. And it ends up coming out through, say, your advertising. Dacia is a car that some of you may know. When they went into Germany the first time, their advertising was as an anti-status car. And that was how they were able to break into the market. By being anti-status, that which is absolutely brilliant, that the anti-status became their status. You can't force anyone to do something that they don't want to do. But action triggers all the things that we've discussed before, the hormones and how to ask, that will create the action trigger that will help you get them there. Thank you. All right. Now, exit from this.
Shira, I just realized that I haven't really made a proper introduction. Would you mind kind of sharing a little bit about yourself? Because, you kind of lived in many different countries and all this stuff, but you are a native Californian, but then you live in Israel and a bit of expertise too. So,
all right. So I started in startups a long time ago back in Israel. I moved to Israel when I was in my 20s, and I fell into startups. I taught myself HTML in, oh God, I don't even want to say the age. Half of you are probably younger than this. In 1998, I taught myself HTML and started working in startups after moving to Israel. From there, I've taught marketing for startups at Tel Aviv-Jaffa Academic College. I was a founding mentor at the Microsoft Ventures Accelerator and Google Campus were two of the largest accelerators back in the day. Also a mentor at 500 Startups, a mentor now at the Alchemist. I've gone around the world speaking about marketing and startups. I also teach at Berkeley. I'm a lecturer. That's my official title. I'm a lecturer at Berkeley in the School of Engineering. Under the major of entrepreneurship, I teach marketing for startups. I teach engineers how to do marketing and how to think about marketing and how to understand marketing. I have an agency now, Hunter and Bard, and we work with startups and enterprises. With the startups, we do marketing team as a service, and with the enterprises, we do full programs. And I've been doing this for a very long time. Please ask any questions that you have. The odds are I'd be able to help in some way or get you some type of answer.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please. Are you kidding? Yeah. Go.
So Shira, thank you very much. So I heard a lot of marketing for startups. So and I represent a startup in the education sector. So what would be, let's say if I start from, zero, what would be 5 steps that I have to think about, or, in relation to what you've been telling us today? So where should I start? What are the 5, let's say, top things to consider when drafting like initial marketing activities plans for a startup?
One of the things that we always do when we're putting together a marketing plan is, and especially in the messaging, how do you want them to feel? What's the emotion that you want on the side of the buyer that's going to get them to do something, right? I mentioned this in the very beginning of the talk. So you have something in the education space. What exactly does it do?
It's a tool for teachers to generate content and
so
prepare for lessons. Yeah,
you're taking the stress off of teachers. Taking stress off of teachers by creating content and preparing lessons, and you're making it easier. You're basically like a big warm hug to a stressed out teacher, okay, who has too much on their plate and works too many hours and is underappreciated. So you're going to show them how much you appreciate them. You're going to frame your product like a big warm hug, and you're going to do everything you can to make sure that they understand that you are there for them. You're there to make their lives easier. You're there for them to relax. You're going to show teachers relaxing because they can, because they have more time than they had before, because they don't have to put as much time as they used to into this. Your company's got it. You've got their backs.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the way I would frame things up and how I would put things around for your marketing programs. Thomas, how can I help you?
So first of all, thank you for very interesting presentation. It's really, I catch myself, we do have 2 startups that launched the products last fall. And when you are going through these techniques and mechanics, how to engage potential customers, I catch myself that we unconsciously doing some of these things, not knowing, the theoretical approach, but and trying to find the different approaches, especially for the new concepts, and especially in conservative marketplaces like clinicians, for example. That's a very conservative marketplace. You have to find, it's not possible to come and say, listen, that's we created something new, you have to buy it. No, they're not going to do that. I mean, it's completely different approach. And I thought that maybe you can comment, because I know that many of startups, they want to conquer the world, but they have a limited resource, and the markets are very different. So what would be your advice for the startups? I mean, how should they define their market entry strategy? Go country by country, or in United States, go state by state? I mean, because it's too different, probably, right? So maybe you can comment on this. Yeah.
It depends. Okay. You mentioned that you were selling to clinicians, so you're in the healthcare space.
Yeah.
So in the healthcare space, this very much depends. And in the United States, you have to deal with the insurance system, I am assuming. That may not be something that you want to deal with. You may want to deal with, instead of dealing with the American healthcare system, you may want to go to someplace with national healthcare. I don't know enough about your product to be able to give you the details of this, but I would say something along the lines of figure out which is going to be the easiest to sell into, right? And then go from that. If you are doing the US, we have different healthcare systems. It's less by state and more by company. So you've got, and also by state. So we have, let's say, Kaiser. Kaiser is one of the insurances. I don't actually know if it's all over the US. I know it's in California. There's Aetna, there's, oh gosh.
Blue Cross.
Yeah, Blue Cross. Blue Cross is all over the US. Blue Cross is all over the US, but they have different regions. And you would sell by region. So once you're in one Blue Cross, it's going to be easier for you to sell to another Blue Cross. Here's a case study of a Blue Cross in Cedar Rapids. And here's how we're working with them. You get that? You then send it over to the Blue Cross in Ohio and California and Florida.
Okay.
It is done by regions. But it could also be done in Israel. You've got basically 3 healthcare systems. You've got Maccabi and a couple of others. That's the entire country, because it's a small country. And you go into each one like that. So it depends on the region, and it depends on their own healthcare system. You're going to have to make those understandings and test it. And in the beginning, if you don't know anything at all about where you should be set, if you've got something that just works with a whole bunch of different markets, I was talking to a startup from The Alchemist just the other day about this exact thing. Like, they could sell to 1 million different markets their product. In the beginning, you just take that spaghetti and you throw it at the wall and you see what sticks. You spray and pray. That is perfectly fine in the very beginning, because you have no baseline and you have no knowledge and you have no idea who's going to react better. And then you look for trends. You have to record everything in this stage, because you have to be able to see the trends, and you only see the trends if you record the numbers. This is not something that can be done on gut. You put all the numbers in, you see what is actually happening. Is a certain group, like we have one client that every year tests a program towards food and beverage for their product. Why? Food and beverage is never bought, but they keep trying. They know the product would be good for food and beverage, and maybe one day they'll be able to get their foot in the door. But so far, they're an enterprise. They have the money for this. But I don't recommend that for startups. If you're an enterprise, you could do that. A startup, you throw it at the wall, you see which one is the one that's reacting. That's when you go after.
Okay.
Does it make sense?
Thank you. And the other quick question, I'm not sure whether to address it to you or to Karolis and the team. How it would practically look like if the startup would like to prepare itself to enter the US market, for example, the product, how that would work in practice. I mean, how the startup could expect maybe your advice or how the startup could get the service.
Oh
yeah, I mean, I guess I can speak to it from InnoHub's perspective, right? Like this event is just like opening the doors and creating awareness of like people like Shira and her company and what you could do with them, if that makes sense, as well as other programs like UCLA Gap is a program, for example, where 3 companies are about to start that for the next 6 months and go through like pretty rigorous process. Part of it, which is throwing that spaghetti at a wall and seeing what sticks, and with the help of US-based experienced MBA students. So, I mean, how it starts is like, let's have a chat, right? Anyone from any of the companies that's here, just connect with me and Diana, and we'll have a chat, explore what is needed, and come up with a strategy of how to walk towards that direction. So I'd leave it at that.
And I can add a bit on top of that. So from the agency perspective, since the agency runs this project in Silicon Valley, we're taking lessons right now. Well, the UCLA GAP program as well, but for next year, we will try to create a pool of money, and we will try to finance companies. And what specifically we will be, well, hopefully we will be able to co-finance, not fully finance. So let's say we might be able to cover like 50 or 75% of some programs. That market entry, business accelerators, and so on. Probably we will have like a recommended programs list, but I think it will be open to any program. Of course, it will be like a limited amount of money or percentage which will be co-funded. We will work thoroughly at the requirements for companies. But yeah, we will try to create financial tool for this, and hopefully we will get through the ministry. So we have some ideas what we have to do, but I cannot promise that it will be fully implemented, but we will try to work out this.
I will add in terms of Shira. So Shira, she's one of our mentors. So basically, if you want to talk to her, if you're a good match, we can connect for one-time consultation, and then you decide, between, you and her, how you want to work, or, so because usually for the mentors, we just kind of have like one consultation, one chat, and then it's like between you and you. Because Shira,
yeah,
she's
thank
like,
you. That's what I was asking. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm seeing a bunch of other questions, but there's one thing I want to make sure that I have very clear. The throwing it against the wall and seeing what sticks is only when you have no idea who you're selling to. If you have an idea, you don't need to do that. I just want to make sure that that's understood. All right. We've got a couple of, Carlos, you've got your hand up?
Yeah, I do. It really resonated, like the lens of the hormones and chemicals to think about like marketing, right? I think one of the major things I'm noticing with Lithuanian companies, medium size or earlier stage, is that they have the headwinds of like being so far away, 10 hours away, like going into this market, and the trust factor. So I just wanted to get your quick take on like what are the things to think about which alleviates like that allows maybe to overcome trust, or what to think about when thinking about, I struggle, my clients basically like struggle to see, why would I go and buy from this Lithuanian company if there's a Philadelphia based company that does something similar but it's not as great?
That is 100% mindset, and that's setting yourself up for failure before you even begin. So I would air horn that person, quite frankly. Okay, Israel is also 10 hours away from the United States. How many Israeli companies have had success in the United States? And quite frankly, with the level of anti-Semitism that is here that we now know. So if you could think about, if Israelis can be successful, anybody can be successful over in the United States. It's where you're at. If you have a good product and you have a compelling message and a strong brand, that is what companies are looking for. If you are solving the problem in a way that they understand, then you can sell in the United States. Where you are is irrelevant. Most people have absolutely no idea where the company is that they're working with is necessarily based. If it's an enterprise company that you're selling to, right? And if you're selling over to enterprise, that's purely mindset. That's actually not a real problem. It's a problem that's in your head, not on the other side. That needs to be understood. Like if you've got something, Skype came from somewhere in Europe. I had no idea when I was using it originally. I thought it was American. Because in America, we just kind of assume everything's American.
It's Estonian. Skype is Estonian.
Yes, fine. But I didn't know. And actually, if you had asked me, I would have said Nordic. So there you go. Only if you push it out there of where it's from are people going to know. Nobody here dives that deep. Am I right, Diana? Do Americans dive that deep? No, we don't. We don't.
Absolutely. It's all about, the good product. Okay, is it working? Yeah.
Yeah. Is it working? Does it solve my problem? Do I like the people I'm working with? Are they nice?
Yeah.
Are they easy to get a hold of? It may suck for you in terms of time zones, but if you're available during their time zone, they will not care where you are.
Shira, do you know NordVPN is a Lithuanian product?
I know that, but I only know that because of going to an event with Diana a week before. I used Nord and we used Nord here, and I had absolutely no idea. I mean, I figured it was European because of the name, but that was it.
Okay, so Gediminas, laser associations. I understand how those hormones works when you sell some consumer products, drugs, food, etc. We would like to sell technologies.
Oh, we only work with tech companies.
Yeah.
Only. I've been working in tech and deep tech for 8 decades now. It works. On both.
So it's not too much personal because you need to convince a lot in the company along the way, not so simply one suppliers that can provide it,
So let me ask you this: how much does your product cost?
$500 million and above, $1 million and above. Yeah.
It's okay, $500,000 and above, you are going to need all of this because it's a relationship sale. They're only going to buy from you if they like you.
Mm-hmm.
This is how you get them to like you.
Okay. Thanks.
Nobody's going to spend that much money on something if they don't like the person they're buying from. Jay, you're on mute.
Sorry for that.
All good.
I loved what you said about the behavioral stuff and the problem that we are trying to solve in our company, the right landing page and messaging. In recent time, what we have seen, our traffic flow is right, the quality is good of the traffic that is driving to the landing pages, but due to some reason, the form fill-up has reduced. Starting early April, I would say, after the first quarter. I don't know if it is a mindset change of Americans due to the GDP results of the first quarter or something like that, but something happened.
What's your product?
We sell technology as a service. So we are good at cloud engineering and IoT products, IoT product development. So we basically sell services, technology services.
It's absolutely 100% because we did not get the lowering of the rate as was expected. So since that was expected, and when that didn't happen, when money is expensive, people don't invest in technology services.
Mm-hmm.
They fix things when money is cheap, right? Right now, money is in people's heads. Historically, right now, money is still cheap, but people don't see it that way because in recent years, money was free. Does that make sense? That's why people are funding startups so much. Now you can put your money into a savings account and get over 5%. But back in the day, you got less than 1%.
Yeah.
If it's expensive, if money is expensive, they don't invest in services like yours as much, or mine for that matter.
Mm-hmm. So do you think there is a fix by changing the messaging or creating some emotions or something like that? Because what I feel, we need to change some messaging. We are really scratching our head to fix the landing pages and we are trying to do some A/B testing, but even doing A/B testing is expensive because it costs money to run all those campaigns, especially when it comes to technology services, because every click costs high.
Yeah, but if you already said you've got, it sounded to me like the issue was the page itself. You said that you had good traffic to the page, and you said that the right people were coming to the page. So the A/B testing should be on the page itself, not in the way you're getting them there. So you shouldn't be from the sound of it, you shouldn't be spending more on the ads. You should be spending time on A/B testing the site itself.
Yes,
and
the pages, right.
Of the pages themselves, but also you should look at, in terms of behavioral engineering, you should look at the people who are actually buying from you and the best ones who have bought from you, and make sure that you have people on the landing page that look like them.
Right.
So, and if there's any way, I don't know if there's any way to actually do this, but you get it where, if you could get it where the page changes depending on the location. So somebody from this area where people look more like this will get this person, and somebody in this area where people look more like that get that person.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Does your agency help companies like ours to fix the messaging, writing ad copies, and also fixing the verbiage language of the landing pages, and also the placement of CTAs in the right place, compelling messages on the top, something like that?
We do. We help with all of that. In terms of the CTAs and placement, again, well, that one, I can help you with that one right now. The basic way to do it is your eye goes from the top to the bottom, right? So you want to make sure your logo is on this side and your CTA is over here. Does that make sense?
Right.
That would be best practice. But again, just test it. A lot of things just need to be tested. We make a lot of assumptions when we're putting things together, and
we do.
Yeah, the biggest deal is just, one, to test your landing page as much as possible, and two, test your assumptions. When it comes to the CTA, it's more about contrast than anything else.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Our hour is up already. So unless we have maybe one burning question, because we already, got so much information from Shira. And if you want to, get in touch with her, so please, address to us first. And because we are kind of we want to do the screening to make sure it's the right fit. And then you need to connect with her for, complimentary, chat. And then, we'll go from there, because we are really happy to have her as a mentor. Any other questions, last minute questions or something, or then we'll...
Very insightful. Just no question. Just wanted to say it's very insightful. Was taking notes all the way. Great insights. I think a lot of things to test and apply. So really appreciate the time and the opportunity to dive in this.
Thank you, Monica.
Thanks.
Same here. Thanks a lot. It's very useful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Shira, and everybody. And so we'll see you next month at another webinar.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all. Goodbye.